My name is Valentina Marlowe, and I'm 36. Until last Saturday night, I genuinely believed I was weeks away from getting married. I'd practiced saying it my husband the way you try a new word in your mouth until it feels like it belongs to you. I'd memorized our timeline like it was proof 3 years together, met at a mutual friend's birthday party. Started dating not long after engaged last November wedding, scheduled for late June. On paper, it looked stable, comfortable, the kind of relationship people nod at approvingly. The problem was never him when we were alone. Julian could be soft in private, thoughtful, attentive, the kind of man who remembered I took my coffee black and that I hated crowded elevators. But around his family, he became someone else. Not cruel exactly. Worse than that. Quiet, adaptable. Like a man who learned early that survival meant blending into whatever room he was in. And his family loved rooms where someone else was on display. They called themselves honest. They wore it like a badge. Loud, opinionated, allergic to silence. The kind of people who think humiliation is a bonding activity and just joking is a get-out-of-jail-free card. The first time his older brother made a little dig at me about my job, my planner personality, the way I spoke carefully, I told myself it was nerves. The second time, I told myself it was family dynamics. The third time I started noticing Julian's smile didn't reach his eyes when they laughed. And the fourth, fifth, 10th time, I kept swallowing it, because that's what you do when you love someone. You take the sharp edges that come attached to them, and you convince yourself they'll dull over time. The engagement dinner was his family's idea, not the sweet celebration we'd already had months ago when he proposed. This was the second one, the official one, because his aunt and uncle were visiting from across the country and needed to meet me properly before the wedding. Julian insisted it mattered to him. He said it mattered to them. He said please in that quiet way that made me feel like refusing would be selfish. So I agreed. The reservation was at an upscale steakhouse downtown. Private room for 14 people. His parents, his 2 brothers and their wives, the aunt and uncle, 2 cousins, Julian and me. I wore my best dress, the one that made me feel composed and expensive even when my stomach was tight. I brought a bottle of wine that cost more than it should have because I knew how this worked. You offer a tribute at the door and hope the gods are satisfied. Dinner started at 7:00 p.m. on Saturday. I arrived 15 minutes early because I always do. I sat alone in the private room for a moment, listening to the restaurant noise through the walls, and I remember thinking, this is it. This is the last stretch. After this, it's just logistics. Then the wedding. Then our life. His family rolled in exactly on time, already laughing about something I wasn't part of. Julian arrived with his mother. He looked good. Clean suit, familiar cologne, the same face I'd fallen for. He kissed my cheek, warm and normal, and then immediately got pulled into a conversation with his aunt about the guest list like I was a coat he'd already hung up. We ordered drinks. Appetizers came. The questions started almost immediately, and they didn't feel like curiosity. They felt like a checklist. So what exactly is it you do again? His uncle asked, leaning back like a man who loved the sound of his own authority. I work in software project management, I said. Mostly enterprise systems. I coordinate teams, timelines, budgets. And it pays... Well, he pressed eyes narrowing with fake politeness. I kept my voice steady. It pays decently. I'm comfortable. I own my condo. I have a solid retirement plan. His uncle made a face like I'd confessed to collecting bottle caps. Comfortable, he repeated, turning the word into an insult. That's one way to put it. The table laughed. Not everyone, but enough. Even Julian gave a little breath of a chuckle like he couldn't stop it from happening to his face. I looked down at my glass and told myself, stay calm. It's one dinner. Just get through the evening. Dinner arrived around 8:15. Steak, sides, more wine. His mother started going through wedding details, venue catering music with the intensity of someone planning a military operation. Then his aunt smiled at me, bright and sharp. So she said, are you excited to be joining this crazy family? I smiled back because that's what you do when you're trying to be chosen. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Julian's older brother smirked. She says that now. Wait until she's stuck with us permanently. More laughter. His younger brother leaned forward, elbows on the table. Seriously, though, he said like he was about to give me advice I hadn't earned. You sure you're ready for this? Marriage is no joke, especially into this family. I think so, I said. I glanced at Julian, hoping he'd meet my eyes. He didn't. I love your brother. That's what matters. His father, who'd been quiet for most of the meal, finally spoke. His voice wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. Love is important, he said. But marriage is more than love. It's compatibility, partnership, handling real life together. I agree, I said carefully. I think we handle real life well together. He studied me like I was a candidate. The room shifted. Forks slowed. Even the laughter thinned out like someone had turned down the volume. I don't think I'm in over my head, I said, because I could feel the trap opening. From where I'm sitting, he continued, you seem like you're struggling to keep up. His mother jumped in with a sugary tone that didn't fool me. Sweetheart, your father's just saying marriage is hard. Harder than dating. You need to be certain. I am certain, I said. And then I realized something that made my throat tighten. Julian still hadn't said a word. He was pushing food around his plate, eyes down like he could disappear if he stayed quiet long enough. His aunt leaned forward, eyes bright. Can I be honest, she asked, and I mean really honest. I forced a nod. Sure. I don't see it, she said, like she was delivering a verdict. You two, I don't see the spark, the chemistry. You seem like roommates. Nice roommates, but still. A ripple of amusement went around the table. I disagree, I said, and my voice sounded steadier than I felt. We have chemistry. His uncle laughed openly. Chemistry, he repeated. She says chemistry. The table laughed with him. Julian didn't. Julian stared at his plate like it had answers written in the sauce. Then his mother turned to him, sweet as poison. Honey, she said, you've been quiet. What do you think? Julian looked up. His eyes met mine for a second, just a second, and in that glance I saw panic. Not fear of losing me, fear of choosing me. I don't know, he said. The words didn't land like a slap. They landed like a floor giving out. You don't know, I repeated quieter than I meant to. He swallowed. I mean, they have a point. Sometimes I wonder if we're really right for each other. My chest went cold. You're wondering this now. 3 weeks before the wedding. I've been wondering for a while, he admitted. The room went completely silent. I could hear kitchen staff through the walls. A plate clinked somewhere outside our door. Why didn't you say something, I asked, and my voice sounded far away, like it belonged to someone else. I thought it would pass, Julian said, still not fully looking at me. I thought I'd feel more certain as the date got closer. And you don't, I said, because I needed to hear him say it plainly. He shook his head. No, I don't. His father cleared his throat, satisfied. Maybe this dinner was a good idea after all. I felt like I was underwater. Everything slowed, muffled. I stared at Julian's hands that had held mine hands that had slipped a ring on my finger, and I realized they weren't reaching for me. They were staying safely on his side of the table. So what are you saying? I asked him directly, forcing the words out. Julian took a deep breath, the kind people take when they want credit for being brave. I don't think you're wife material, he said. I'm ending this. His brothers both laughed. Actually laughed out loud like this was the punchline they'd been waiting for. His uncle smirked into his wineglass. His cousins looked shocked, but not horrified, more like entertained, like dinner theater had finally started. I sat there for a moment, processing the sound of it. The way my humiliation became a shared joke passed around the table like another side dish. Then something in me clicked. Not rage, not tears, something colder, something clean. Great timing, I said. Julian blinked. What? I reached into my purse and pulled out the ring box I'd been carrying around like an idiot showing it to friends when they asked about the wedding. My fingers didn't shake until I opened it. I held my hand out across the table. Julian hesitated for half a heartbeat, just long enough to pretend this hurt him. Then he slid the ring off my finger and handed it back without a fight. I dropped it into the box and closed the lid. Then I stood up. The room watched like it was waiting to see if I'd beg. I picked up my wineglass and raised it. To better decisions, I said. Every face turned toward me. Even Julian's mother looked briefly unsure, like she'd expected tears and got something she couldn't control. What are you doing? Julian asked, his voice thin. Making a better decision, I said. I took a sip of wine, set the glass down gently, like I had all the time in the world. Since we're being honest, let me share something. They leaned in without meaning to. People like them always do when they think the next line will be humiliating. This dinner cost $2,800, I said. I paid for it. The wine I brought was $400. The ring I just took back was $12,000. The deposits on our wedding venue, catering band, and photographer, $18,000. Julian's mother inhaled sharply. All in my name, I continued, and all refundable up to 30 days before the wedding. His father's expression tightened. Now hold on. Hold on for what I asked, still calm. Your son just ended our engagement in front of his entire family like it was entertainment. I think we're past holding on. Julian's face had gone pale. He looked like he'd finally realized this wasn't a performance where he got to be the hero. I didn't plan this, he whispered, and his eyes finally looked wet. I panicked. You didn't plan to humiliate me, I said. Could have fooled me. His older brother stood up, palms out like I was the problem. Hey, calm down. I turned my head slowly toward him. Calm down, I repeated. You laughed. All of you laughed when he ended it like I was a joke. We didn't mean, yes, I cut in and my voice sharpened for the first time all night. You did. You've meant it for 3 years. Every comment about how I'm not exciting enough or ambitious enough or whatever enough, I swallowed it because I loved him. But I'm done swallowing. I grabbed my coat. My hands were steady, which surprised me. I looked at the table one more time at the faces that had expected me to beg for approval. Enjoy the rest of your dinner, I said. It's paid for. Consider it my parting gift. Then I looked directly at Julian long enough for him to understand this moment would follow him. And by the way, I added the condo you've all been pressuring me to sell after the wedding because it's too small for a married couple. I'm keeping it. Because it's mine. Bought and paid for before I even met him. The silence that followed wasn't polite. It was stunned. Like they'd finally met a version of me they couldn't laugh at. I walked out. I did not look back. I got to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and only then did I realize my hands were shaking so hard I could barely fit the key into the ignition. I drove home in a fog. Not crying, not screaming, just numb like my body hadn't caught up with what had happened yet. The city lights blurred past my windshield, familiar streets suddenly feeling foreign like I was driving through someone else's life. I got to my condo around 9:30 p.m., kicked off my heels and sat on the couch without turning on a single light. I stayed there for nearly an hour, staring at nothing. No dramatic sobbing, no throwing things, just the slow realization that the future I'd been rehearsing in my head no longer existed. My phone started buzzing around 10:45. Julian. Then his mother. Then his father. Then his older brother. I watched the screen light up again and again until it felt obscene. I didn't answer a single one. At 11:30, I turned my phone off completely and went to bed fully dressed like I might need to run. I didn't sleep. Sunday morning, I was awake by 6:00 a.m. The sky was just starting to lighten. I made coffee I didn't really want and carried it out to the balcony, wrapping myself in a cardigan because I couldn't stop shivering. When I turned my phone back on around 7:00, it vibrated nonstop for nearly a full minute. 43 missed calls, 67 text messages. I didn't read them. Instead, I started making calls. The wedding venue answered first. I explained the situation calmly, like I was canceling a business meeting instead of the most expensive mistake of my adult life. The coordinator paused, then softened. I'm sorry, she said. That sounds awful. We're within the refundable window. I'll process it right now. Refund confirmed. 5 to 7 business days. Caterer. Same thing. Band. Photographer. Same professionalism. No drama. No guilt. By noon, everything was canceled, and my inbox was filling with confirmation emails like proof that this wasn't a bad dream. When I finished, I sent Julian one message. Everything is canceled. Deposits are being refunded. Do not contact me again. He called immediately. I declined. He called again. I declined again. Then the text started coming through. Please let me explain. I panicked. My family pushed me into saying that. I didn't mean it. Please call me. I blocked his number. His mother tried next. She left a voicemail, her tone tight with outrage disguised as concern. We need to talk about this like adults, she said. You can't just throw away 3 years because of one difficult conversation. I blocked her too. His father sent a text. You embarrassed our entire family at that restaurant. You owe us an apology. Blocked. By Sunday evening, I'd blocked every number connected to him or his family. I went to the gym and worked out until my muscles burned and my thoughts went quiet. I came home, ordered pizza, and ate it straight from the box on the floor because the table suddenly felt too formal for my life. Monday morning, I went to work like nothing had happened. I told my manager I'd need to use some vacation days later in the month days I'd originally booked for my honeymoon. He looked at me carefully. Everything okay? I canceled my wedding, I said evenly. He didn't ask questions, just nodded. Take whatever time you need. That night, I slept for 6 uninterrupted hours. It felt like a miracle. Update 2. Tuesday afternoon, Julian showed up at my condo. I knew it was him before I even checked the intercom. Something in my chest tightened, instinctive and unwelcome. He buzzed once. I didn't answer. He buzzed again and again. Eventually, my neighbor let him in. He knocked on my door soft at first, then harder. I stood on the other side, heart pounding, watching him through the peephole. He was crying, holding flowers. Please, he said, voice breaking. I know you're in there. Just talk to me. I didn't move. I'm sorry, he said. I don't know why I said those things. I was nervous. My family was putting all this pressure on me, and I panicked. Silence. The wedding doesn't have to be canceled, he added desperately. We can still fix this. Please. I walked away from the door, went into my bedroom, and put on headphones. He knocked for another 20 minutes before finally giving up. Wednesday, his older brother showed up at my office. Security called to ask if I wanted him sent up. No, I said. Please don't. Apparently, he waited in the lobby for nearly an hour before leaving. Thursday, Julian's best friend messaged me through social media. A long paragraph about how devastated Julian was, how he'd made a mistake, how he really loved me. I deleted it without responding. Friday, exactly 1 week after the dinner, I received a handwritten letter in the mail. Actual paper. My name written carefully on the envelope. I threw it away without opening it. That weekend, I started cleaning. Anything that belonged to Julian or reminded me of him went into bags. Clothes he'd left. Toiletries, books, decorations we'd picked out together. 4 full garbage bags. I drove them to a donation center, dropped them off, and came home to an apartment that finally felt quiet. Empty, but quiet. Week 2. After the dinner, Julian's father called me from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. We need to talk. He said, no greeting, no pretense. No, I replied. We don't. You humiliated my son in front of our entire family. I closed my eyes and leaned back against the kitchen counter. Your son humiliated me first, in front of those same people, after they spent the entire evening treating me like a joke. That's not. Yes, it is, I cut in. And you've been doing it for 3 years. I just finally stopped tolerating it. There was a pause. I could almost hear him recalibrating, shifting tactics. He wants to fix things, he said. He didn't mean what he said. I don't care what he meant, I said. I care what he did. You're throwing away 3 years over one bad night. I'm not throwing away anything, I replied. He ended it. I just accepted it and moved on faster than he expected. You're being stubborn. I'm being done, I said. There's a difference. He hung up. I blocked the number. After that, the messages came from mutual friends. Some were kind, some were careful, some were clearly sent on Julian's behalf, disguised as concern. One friend said I was strong. Another said they couldn't believe his family treated me like that. A few suggested gently, of course, that I might be overreacting, that maybe I should at least hear him out. I stopped responding to those ones. One friend actually asked how I was. Not for gossip, not for updates, just to check in. We got drinks after work. I told her everything start to finish, and when I was done, she shook her head slowly. That wasn't one night, she said. That was a pattern. You did the right thing. It doesn't feel right yet, I admitted. It just feels like surviving. That's all it's supposed to feel like at first, she said. The better part comes later. She was right. Week 3. Julian didn't try to contact me directly anymore, but his orbit kept brushing against mine. Different people, same message. He's not okay. He's lost without you. He made a mistake. I ignored all of it. Work became my anchor. Routine helped. So did the gym. So did exhaustion. When my thoughts got too loud, I stayed busy until they went quiet again. Then one evening after a workout, I walked out of my gym and nearly collided with Julian's mother. She'd been waiting. Valentina, she said, stepping into my path, we need to talk. No, I said immediately, already reaching for my car keys. We don't. Please, she insisted, just 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I stopped. 5, I said flatly. She exhaled like she had won something. He's not doing well, she began. He's depressed. He's not eating. He's barely sleeping. You need to see him. I stared at her. I need to see him after what he did to me. She made a mistake, she said, correcting herself too late. People make mistakes. He didn't make a mistake, I replied. He made a choice, in front of his entire family, after letting them mock me all night. We weren't mocking you. Yes, you were, I said calmly. You've been doing it since the day I met you. I was never good enough, never successful enough, never exciting enough, and he went along with it every time. That's not true. It is, I said, and I'm done pretending it isn't. I turned toward my car. She followed. If you won't see him, she said quickly, at least give back the things he left at your place. I stopped. I donated them, I said. Her face went slack. You what? I donated them, I repeated. 2 weeks ago. They're gone. You had no right, she snapped. They were in my home, I said. He never came to get them. I had every right. I got into my car and drove away while she was still standing there stunned. I blocked her number again before I even reached the street. That night something shifted. Not relief, not happiness, but clarity. They weren't trying to fix what was broken. They were trying to restore what they'd lost control of. And I wasn't giving it back. Month 2 arrived quietly. No dramatic shift, no sudden closure, just a gradual easing like pressure releasing 1 degree at a time. Work got busy in a way that felt grounding instead of exhausting. I picked up habits I'd always postponed: rock climbing on Tuesdays, a book club that met at a wine bar on Thursdays. I reconnected with friends I'd drifted from during the relationship, people who didn't ask for updates or explanations, who just made room for me again without conditions. Julian stopped trying to reach me directly. His friends still surfaced occasionally, each one delivering the same message with different packaging. He misses you. He's changed. He knows he messed up. I ignored every single one. Then near the end of the month, I heard through mutual friends that Julian had reconnected with his ex-girlfriend, the one he'd dated briefly before me. Apparently, she'd been around offering comfort after the breakup. They were taking things slow. I felt nothing. No jealousy, no sting, just confirmation. Final update. It's been 4 months since the engagement dinner. I'm doing well. Actually, well, not the forced version you give people when you want the conversation to end, but the quiet, steady kind. The kind that shows up when you wake up without dread, when your home feels like yours again, when your name doesn't feel attached to someone else's approval. Julian is engaged again. I heard about it last month. His family is apparently thrilled. I hope it goes exactly how they deserve. The refunded wedding money is sitting in my investment account. The engagement ring is gone. I sold it and used the money to take a solo trip abroad, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the emotional bandwidth for before. Walking unfamiliar streets alone, answering to no one, felt like reclaiming something I hadn't realized I'd given away. No one from his family has contacted me since his mother cornered me at the gym. I assume they're busy planning another wedding, another performance. Someone asked me recently if I regret how I handled that dinner, if I thought I was too harsh, too public. No, I said. He chose to end things publicly. I just chose to accept it publicly. If he'd wanted privacy, he could have ended it in private, but that's not what happened. What happened is I was humiliated at a dinner I paid for by people I'd tried to impress, in front of a man I loved, who didn't have the decency to defend me. So I took my ring back. I canceled my wedding, and I walked away with my dignity intact. I'm 36. I'm single. I own my place. I have a good job, good friends, and self-respect I'd slowly misplaced over 3 years of trying to be enough for people who'd already decided I wasn't. That's more than I had 4 months ago. Would I have preferred a calm, private breakup? Of course. But that wasn't the situation I was given. The situation I was given was public disrespect dressed up as honesty. And I finally learned the difference between accepting flaws and accepting humiliation. Best decision I ever made.